Hey gang, I'm Cable. This week I want to talk to you about selling personal training services or really any high price service program. There's a few things that I think are critically important. In fact, there's a few things that I think everybody does wrong in the early stages, and you might be experiencing this now. At first, it seems like everybody sells on features and benefits. You list out the bullet points, all the valuable things in my services. It's this many times per week, this many sessions, this is the results you're going to experience, here's what you're going to get, blah, 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 blah. As consumers, we don't make decisions that way. Or second, I see people constantly falling into this trap that when met with a financial objection, they start to spew off these silly cost comparisons. Mrs. Jones, if you just give up your Starbucks per day or this thing or that thing or going out for dinner or whatever, you'll be able to afford my services. Mrs. Jones doesn't want to give those things up. They actually enjoy them. And that's not how you make decisions as a consumer either. Right? So especially when it comes to fitness services, because let's be honest, most of our customers don't even want our service. They don't want to admit that they don't feel comfortable. They don't want to admit that they have weight to lose. They don't want to admit that maybe they feel insecure or their self-confidence is lower. And they certainly don't want to admit that they need help. All those things make it very difficult to sell our services or any high-priced service for that matter, because you, me as consumers, we just don't want to buy them. So how do we help our customers? How do we sell more personal training and make this experience more comfortable for ourselves and for our prospects? Well, first thing, consider that they probably already know something about you. Okay, I can guarantee that when you go to buy something, you do a little bit of research. You Google it, you find out about it, you understand the features and benefits, you probably read a few reviews, you might even ask your friends about it. Chances are your prospects have done the same with you. So this is a good time to mention, if you're not in the regular habit of publishing content like this on your blog, on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, you need to start. You need to get that message out there so people can see what you want them to see before they get to meet you. Now what happens in the selling environment? Let's walk through the steps that I used to use when I was selling in my personal training facilities. First off, I always use an icebreaker, okay? And I like to catch people a little bit off guard. Mrs. Jones, why the heck are you here? Okay, if I was really feeling risque that day, I might use the HE double hockey sticks word, right? I just like to catch people off guard and humanize the situation, tell them I'm a real individual, and just kind of make them do a bit of a double take. I used to follow that up always with emotional questioning, which is a great time for us to get into my favorite selling acronym. EAS. If you remember, not just a popular supplement brand back in the 90s, I was a huge fan of them and the transformation challenges they did. EAS for me has become the most important sales acronym for training my staff and trainers just like you for many years. It stands for emotion, affirmation, solution. In a nutshell, as human beings, especially for buying personal training services, we need to be emotional if we're going to make a decision today. We need to connect with our why as to what actually got us up off the couch to even inquire in the first place in order to have a hope of making a decision now. And as a salesperson, we need to get that affirmation, that yes, that they understand, that we have that connection point, and there's mutual trust before we ever present a solution. Present the solution too soon, and the instinctive walls of I need to protect myself and not make a decision today, I need to think about it, will come into play. What is emotional questioning? Mrs. Jones, what would life be like if this was the program that actually worked? How would you feel if I was the one to actually help you lose that 30 pounds? What other things have failed you or let you down? What would it be like if this time was different? Just some good examples of where we can start with emotional questioning. Once you start getting those answers, let's make sure we follow it up with affirmation. Mrs. Jones, do I understand you correctly? Are you saying this? Mrs. Jones, does this make sense? Oh, I get it, Mrs. Jones. Let me share this with you, followed by, does that make sense? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Essentially, we're all looking for yeses, and hopefully you're giving me that affirmative nod as you're watching this video, because the same process is true in this particular video. I just want to be able to educate you and hopefully touch that emotional point with your business. Are you struggling to get clients? Maybe somebody like me could help you. I mean, we're all coaches here, right? But let's get back to the matter at hand. You're asking those emotional questions, you're gaining those affirmations, ultimately get to yes. The solution is where we present our offer. Okay, and my favorite segue to the solution just becomes, totally get it, Mrs. Jones. I think I understand where you're at. Is it okay if I show you the programs that we offer or how things work here? Right? That final affirmation to get permission. So let's just back up, because you'll notice I skipped over tour and health questions. Essentially, when people used to come into my facility, it was one of two scenarios. Either we had individuals meeting one-on-one, or we had small groups of people that were there for kind of a group orientation to find out about our services. Whenever I could, I like to use a tour. I know that when people step in your facility, their guard is up, the walls are up, they feel uncomfortable, maybe intimidated even, especially if the music is loud, your instructors are yelling, people are sweating, weights are clanging, whatever it is, they typically feel intimidated at the entryway. But if I could move them around and show them different perspectives of the facility while filling in a little bit of information and asking the emotional questions, I always noticed that their body language started to relax. So what happens in a group environment? Well, we don't always get a chance to do that tour. So I used to love to, in addition to EAS, to make sure that I used health questions. Does anybody feel sore knees, back, hips, shoulders, etc.? Because what I knew is that instinctively, everybody in the audience didn't trust me. Right? And even though they probably didn't know each other, if multiple people started to engage with me, they were more likely to trust the opinion of their peers or those people sitting around them than they were me. So when it came to that time for me to pitch their services or ask them to do something, they were more likely to listen if there were other people around them engaged, because they would trust in that opinion. So the health questionnaires was a way to get everyone to start to engage and collaborate. The more vocal it is, the more talking they do, the better your pitch is going to go. I have a great video on this. I'll link it below. So my segue, do I have permission to show you our services and what it is that we offer? This is always really critically important that we have a risk reversal, okay? And I've always said that it's not my job to sell you anything, it's my job to make it really easy to try. So with that, every single program that we offer always had an unconditional money back guarantee. In fact, I still do the same thing today with my coaching services, because I think as consumers, we're more fearful than ever. There's so many things out there that have let us down. The point is that we want to have that reassurance or that insurance that this is going to work for us. So simply, why not offer a guarantee? It's going to allow more people up front to try your services. And yes, you'll have a refund or two, but that's okay. We don't need to please everyone. We just need to help the ones that we can. So every pitch for me always started with, Mrs. Jones, just before I even show you anything, I always want you to know my job isn't to sell you anything. It's to make it really easy to try. This is why everything we do has a 30-day unconditional money back guarantee. Do you think it's safe to assume that within 30 days you could decide whether this was a right program for you? I think that's a lot easier than deciding that today. Don't you agree? See what I did there? Another affirmation. And then I would jump into presenting my pricing. I'm going to overlay this image so this video doesn't get too long, but essentially I just wanted to point out some key features of a pricing sheet. Okay, I designed this to be taken home. I knew that not everyone would decide today, so when they were presenting it to their spouse, I wanted to make sure it was presented in the way I wanted it to be presented. So a little information about our facility, some testimonials and social proof, the pricing and options jammed here in the middle, social proof with our before and the afters, and of course that ever prominent risk reversal money back guarantee. You'll also notice our programs are divided into 3 columns. I call this the Goldilocks syndrome. Nobody wants to be the cheapest one, nobody wants to buy the most expensive, so as consumers we typically gravitate to the middle option or the one that feels just right. So everything has a reason and why it's presented this way. I actually cover this in really great detail in my full sales training, which as it happens I'm giving away right now. So I'll include the link below of this video for that as well, where you can opt in and get all my sales training for free. Hey look, I hope this video helps you rethink on how you're selling your personal training services or any high ticket service. It really comes down to practice, language, and authenticity. But I think you see my strategy is really to humanize it, to make it real, to allow you to create a connection that's both authentic and sincere. Because I don't think that selling needs to be uncomfortable for you or the prospect. Hey, I'm Cable. I'm out of here this week. We'll talk again next week. I hope that helps. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe.